Hello, this is Jason Clement, Technical Sales Manager at ISONAS, and welcome to this Pure Access Advanced Training module. This module is on Pure Access areas. Our prerequisites are a basic understanding of Pure Access. You should already have gone through your Pure Access certification prior to viewing this module. Our objectives are: understand what areas are in Pure Access, learn to plan areas before implementing a system, and implement a simple system with a common area and two site-specific areas. So first off, what are areas? Areas are containers that we can use to segment a Pure Access tenant for administration. A user can administer one or more areas inside of a tenant. Areas are turned off by default in Pure Access. Most importantly, only use areas when needed. You should not turn areas on just to have areas in a system. So why would I use these areas? Let's take a look at a simple site. This site has a common entry, two buildings, and a security guard that monitors the site. The end user will have multiple administrators, one for building 1, one for building 2, a security guard who can see everything, and a central manager who can make overall changes in the whole system. So in this situation, we're going to have a common area. We're going to put all of our users or our badge holders into that common area, plus the one door that's a common entry. Then we're going to have an administrator for building 1 area. He'll be able to see his area, plus he'll be able to see the common area. The same thing for building 2. The building 2 administrator will see his area and be able to see the common area as well. The security guard will be able to see all areas within the system. So how do we plan these areas out? They must be planned out before the system is fully configured. It's very important that you don't turn areas on after the fact, as every single item in Pure Access needs to be assigned to an area. Enroll access points and create areas for them, or vice versa. You can always create the areas first, enroll the access points, and assign them to the specific areas. Create admins for areas and have them create groups and rules, or create them for the admins. You want to be very careful that you do not assign the wrong items to the wrong area. This could end up inadvertently creating the wrong access rules. So let's go ahead and jump into Pure Access where I already have some access points enrolled. Here we can see I have 5 access points enrolled. I have Building 1, Employee Entry and Main Entry, Building 2, Employee Entry and Main Entry, and a Common Entry. If we go up and we click on our areas, we can see that everything right now is in a common area. This is what I meant when I said that areas are turned off by default. By default, everything will just be put into a common area, and you won't see an area field anywhere else in the software. Once we add another area to the system, it will turn on areas, and now everything that we create in the system will have to be assigned to an area. Let's go ahead and create these areas now. First, I'm going to create an area for building 1. Right now, all we're doing is creating an area, so we don't have to add anything to it. We'll save this area. We'll click on our drop down, we'll add another area in. This one will be for building 2. And I will save this area. Finally, we're going to add one more area for the security guards and anybody else who needs overall administration. We're going to call this area Alpha. And one last thing that I typically do, go to the common area, and I'm just going to put some lowercase in there. So now that we have our areas created, we need to actually assign these access points into the areas. Access points are the main items that are going to filter this information out for us. So we'll go to our access points, and we'll start at the Building 1 Employee Entry, and we'll just drop it into Building 1. We'll save this, and then we'll just move on down our access points and put them in the appropriate area. Now that we have our areas created and we have our access points assigned to the areas, we're going to create some users that will administrate this area. So I'm going to go to my user tab and I'm going to start adding in some of these users. I'm going to add in user 1 for building 1, user 2 for building 2, a user manager, and then a few additional users that we can drop in. Now these users will all be in the common group. Building 1, building 2, and security will all have access to that common group. This way, someone from building 1 who needs to go to building 2 can request access from the building 2 administrator. The building 2 administrator can see that user because they are in a common area. They can then assign access as needed. So I'm going to go ahead and add these users in. Starting with user 1. Remember, these users will all be in the common area. We're going to provide this person web access since they'll be an administrator. We're going to assign them administrator user role, and we'll go ahead and create a password. I also have some pictures here that I'm going to assign, just to make it easier for the history. I actually already have a credential for this person, so I'm going to go ahead and enroll it now. And we'll click Save. Now I'm just going to go ahead and enroll the rest of these users in. Now I've added all my users in, I need to go in and set their administrative areas. We can see that I've got a mix of users. For example, Tom Baker here is just in the common area, he's just a card holder. However, user manager is a system administrator and has access to all these areas. Just by adding somebody as a system administrator, they have access to all the areas. We need to restrict that access as building 1 should only see building 1 and the common area. So we're going to go back to our Areas tab, under Access Control, and then Areas. First we'll start with the Alpha area. The only person that should see the Alpha area is the User Manager. So we'll check these other users, and we'll simply remove them from this area. Then we'll go to our Building 1 area. The only one that should see the Building 1 area are User 1, the User Manager. User 2 shouldn't see it. The Integrator Administrator should not see it either. Then we'll move to Building 2. Essentially the same thing. We don't want the Integrator Administrator or User 1 to see it. And we'll double check our common area. Everybody should be able to see the common area. Now that we have the access restricted, we're going to go ahead and log out and then log back in as user 1. So taking a look under our users, we can see all the users in our system because we can see everything in the common area. However, if we go underneath our access points, we can only see the Building 1 access points and the common entry. Now we're going to go ahead and create some rules in the system. First, we're going to start off with our schedule. So under our Access Control tab, under Rules, we'll go underneath Schedule. Going to add a schedule in, and this is just going to be a basic 24/7 schedule. We're actually going to put this in the common area. It doesn't really matter who can see, anybody can really use a schedule, and it doesn't affect any permissions. So we'll set this as an always, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Going with our who, where, when, we're going to create a user group, and I'm just going to create one for all access. And we're going to make sure that's in our building 1 area. I don't want anybody else seeing this group. I'm going to go ahead and rename this building 1 all access. Now I'm going to go ahead and add some users in here. Obviously, I want the user 1 in here. I know that user manager will have access to our building, and also Luke Skywalker. So we'll go ahead and add these users in here and click save. Finally, the last piece is the where, so I'm going to go ahead and create an access point group. I'm going to call this building 1 all doors. Make sure it's in my building 1 area. Perfect. And we'll go ahead and add these doors in. Now that I have all 3 items complete, I can go ahead and create that rule, which I'm going to call building 1 all access. It's going to be a grant access rule. We want to make sure that it's in our building 1 area, which it is. Then I just need to create my rule. It's important to name all your rules and your groups. It doesn't matter much to a person administrating one area, but to the person who's administrating multiple areas, it makes it a lot easier for them to visually see what rules and groups are under what area. On the left-hand side, you can filter by areas as well. So if the naming convention doesn't quite make it, you can always filter by area to see what rules are in what area. For example, if I take away building 1, it takes away the building 1 rule. Now that we have that set up, I'm going to go ahead and configure a basic dashboard. We're just going to call this building 1. We'll leave the area as building 1 and click save. We'll do a single access point for my common entry. We'll do a single access point for my employee entry. Actually, this one will be main entry. And then finally, we'll do one for our single access point employee entry. I did employee entry last as it's a virtual access point and we won't see any history from it. Then we'll go ahead and add a history report in here. One thing you'll notice is that within this history report, I can see devices and people in other areas. I can't make any modifications to them, but I could see the history in here. So I'm going to go ahead and drop building 2 out of this history just because we don't need to see it, and I'll click done. So now I'm going to go ahead and push all these changes out by clicking refresh access points. Now I'm going to go ahead and read a couple cards to make sure we have good communication. So here we can see we have approval from Luke on the common entry and a building 1 main entry and also user 1. I'll test another card that I know we did not give access to, just so we can see the rejects. And here we can see Tom Baker was not assigned any access in our area, therefore his badge was declined. Now let's go ahead and log out and log in as user 2. Here I'm going to essentially do the same thing I did for user 1. However, let's point out a couple things first. I created a dashboard under user 1, but it's not showing up under user 2 because we assigned it to the building 1 area. Second, I can still see all my users because they're all in the common area. Third, if I go to access control and I look under my schedules, I can see the 24/7 schedule I created under building 1. But I assigned it to the common area so that everybody can use it. However, I can't see access points or access point groups from building 1. Now I can see, under the common entry, that the common entry is also in the access point group, building 1 all doors. But I can't modify it at all. So we'll go ahead and we'll create a user group. Building 2, all access, and we'll go ahead and add some users in here. Obviously, user 2, the manager user, and we'll put Tom Baker in here as well. And then we'll click save. Then I just need to create an access point group. Building 2, all doors. Make sure it's in our building 2 area. Click add, and we'll add all those doors for building 2 in there. Finally, I'll go to my rule, and I'll use the 24/7 rule that's in the common area. So this is going to be building 2, all access, a rule type of grant access in the building 2 area, and I'll just drag these items over here. We'll add this rule in here. Go back to our dashboard again and create a simple dashboard like we did last time. Our common entry. Our building 2 main entry. And our building 2 employee entry. And then finally a history dashboard. Here I'm going to take out building 1. I don't want to see building 1's history, so I'll just take it out of there. Again, I can't manipulate anything, but I can see the building 1 history. We'll go ahead and click refresh access points to update those access points. And then we'll test a couple of these items out. So first I'll go ahead and I'm going to test actually building 1's card on building 2. I did not give them access, so their badge is declined. Now I'll test Tom Baker's card on common in building 2. If we take a look at our common entry history, Tom Baker has a declined no badge because I tested it before I logged in as building 2 and gave him access. Now that I've given Tom Baker access through the user 2 administrator, he now has access to the common entry and the building 2 entry. And then finally, the end user has an overall administrator, our alpha user. I'm going to go ahead and log out of user 2 here and log in as our user manager. So now that I'm logged in as the alpha user, I can actually see building 1 and building 2's dashboards. I can see these because I can see all areas. If I go under access control and I look at my rules, I can see the rules for both areas. Also remember that you can filter by different areas. So if I just want to see everything for building 1, I can filter just by building 1. And again for building 2. But as the overall administrator, I can see all the areas in the system. So I have a security guard and I want to give him access to everything. First thing I want to do is go to my access point groups and create an access point group for all the doors in the system. I'll call this campus all doors. This is one thing you have to be careful in areas. We need to make sure that we assign this to the alpha area. We don't want to give anybody else access to this campus all door group. So I'll assign this to the alpha area and I'll add all the access points in here. Now you can also go in and create a couple different rules and have each local administrator give the security guard access. There's multiple ways to do this. I'm showing just using an overall system administrator here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on my users and add a new user group in. And we'll call this campus all access. Again, make sure this is in my alpha area. I'm going to go ahead and add my security guard in here. We'll click save here. And finally, we'll just finish up our rule by adding it in. So we'll create this rule called campus all access. It's a grant access. It needs to be in the alpha area. Finally, we use our 24/7 schedule we put in the common area, our campus all access group, and our campus all doors group. We'll add this rule in. Go to our dashboard, and we're going to create a new dashboard. We'll call this one all views. We'll put it into our alpha. And we'll do a single access point for the building 1 main entry, an access point for our building 2 main entry. And we'll create a final dashboard with multiple access points that has all of our doors in there. Just add these in here. And finally, our history of everything in the system. So now we can see everything in the system. I'll go ahead and refresh access points to push out any changes that we've made. And we'll go ahead and test our security badge. We can see here that our security badge does work on both buildings. Since I'm the system administrator, I have access to view all the doors. So I can go through here to the common entry and do all the common tasks such as admitting people through doors and things like that. So finally, I'm going to log out of the user manager. I'm going to log back in as user 1 just one more time. So on our dashboard here, I can see the different history. I've got the security guard badge that I can see the reads on there that the system administrator added in. I can still only see my dashboard because it's the only one in my area. If I go to access control, I can only see the rule that I created. I can't see anything from the system admin or the alpha user or our building 2 administrator. This is the basics of areas. Now that you've seen areas in action and seen what they can do, I just want to review this planning area slide. We saw that areas should be planned before the system is fully configured. If we add in all of our users, all of our access points, create a bunch of rules, and then we create our areas, we have to go back and we actually have to assign every single thing to an area. We may have to reprogram the whole system. We saw that in every object created must have an assigned area. When you're creating these objects, ensure that they're assigned to the correct area. Enroll access points and create areas for them, or vice versa. In this scenario, I already had the access points created. If you have hundreds and hundreds of access points, you probably don't want to go back and reassign those all to areas. You're going to want to create your areas first, and then enroll your access points and assign those to those areas during that process. In our case, we created admins for areas and had them create groups or rules. You could also create all this and then create some basic rules for those area admins and then give them some training on how to modify those rules or create their own. You may also want to restrict those area admins from creating any rules and only be able to assign badge holders into pre-existing rules. We do not want to assign items to the wrong area. You need to make sure that when you create an object that it's assigned to the right area. You don't accidentally want to put a rule giving access to every single door into the common area. Thank you for watching this module. I hope it was beneficial. Have a great day.